Pop, what's going on, man?
Son, I'm sure glad we're recording this with a day or two buffer after the
Oh
game
man.
because you're a little touchy.
Well, Thursday night could have forever altered the course of the Domabot podcast if you got me talking right away after that one. Wow. Guys, here's our recap. This is like halfway between a recap and a vibe check. We had the mini bye. We usually do this after the mini bye. We had it way too early in the season, week two. Clearly there's not the outcome we needed against Green Bay, but stay tuned. We're going to talk about that loss. We're going to talk about where we think we're headed this season. Probably make some way too early reactions that might look silly in a couple months. Hopefully they do. But don't forget while you're here, enter that Jayden Daniels jersey giveaway to be eligible. Subscribe, send us an email with your name, address, jersey size. Dom and Pop giveaway 1 at gmail.com. If reading's more of your thing, it's all going to be in the pinned comment below. I would recommend just copy paste. Don't have to worry about spelling. Hit that pinned comment. And while you're down there, just go ahead and drop a like on the podcast. And once we hit our goal of 2,000 subs, we'll have a drawing to pick the winner. So details, again, all in that pinned comment below. And
Let's make a
Pop's
quick
got something
comment
to
here.
add.
Just a quick comment here, right? I mean, so much of the people that listen to us don't subscribe. And we would love to hit that 2,000 mark. It's been a little slow getting there. Plus, if we get asked of our loyal listeners, just tell your friends, send a link, say, hey, subscribe to these guys, check these guys out. We would love that. So let's kind of, like the Commanders need to put momentum on their season. Let's put momentum on this giveaway. Let's get to 2,000. We got a couple of entries already, so that's awesome. Keep them coming in. Who doesn't want a free jersey? So, and don't
Exactly.
remember, you're not competing against 2,000 people because not 2,000 people won't send us email. We'll be lucky to get 50 or 100. So, odds are pretty good of you getting one if you enter. So, don't hesitate.
Exactly.
Get in there.
So, getting into it, obviously, Commanders are 1-1 after a decent win over New York, beat them 21-6, and then a pretty rough loss to the Packers. I mean, this looks like it was a 9-point game. It was technically a 9-point game, but it was also throttling. A lot of that score and a lot of these yards gained and completed passes and stuff like that happened pretty much in garbage time. I mean, I think through three quarters, Jayden had like 61 total yards. Um, it was a rough one, man. It was just a rough showing. So, vibes wise, for me, it's definitely a different feeling at 1-1 this year than it was last year. And when you look back at it, it's strangely similar. Things are not really firing exactly the way we want them to be firing offensively. There's some question marks around the defense, and we ended up beating what was quite a lesser Giants team, pretty bad Giants team. And sure, we beat them more handily this year than we did last year, but got a good win against the Giants. And then last year, we got beat pretty bad by Tampa in week one, which was Jayden Daniels' first game ever. And then we get beat pretty bad by Green Bay on this Thursday night game, which again, I think Green Bay is, I mean, very clearly a better team than us. I said earlier that I thought if we played 7 games against, or if we played a best of four series, it probably goes to 7, or first to four. And I think in this case, man, I don't really feel the same way after watching that game, at least where we're at this point in the season. Um, we got smoked, and on top of getting smoked, we had some pretty key injuries. I'll run through those real quick, and then I'll pass the mic over to you, Pop. Austin Eckler tore his Achilles. Dietrich Wise with a quad injury, both carted off and both out for the year. And I think both of these guys, the long-term career implications with those quad injuries, guys just never come back. And Achilles, guys can make it back from that, but this late in Austin Eckler's career, you wonder. Um, but I think both of these are probably the last time we'll see either of these guys in burgundy and gold, would be my guess. Um, John Bates and Noah Brown both left the game with groin injuries, both key players. Bates especially really hurt later on in the game. And then you had Trey Amos and Brandon Coleman also missed a chunk of the game with shoulder issues. They both did return. Jonathan Jones was also dinged up with his hamstring. So what sucks about this, man, is you read down these names and they're all really important players to this team's plan this year. And on top of that, some of these guys top contributors at their positions. Trey Amos has been the best cornerback on the team for the last 2 weeks. Brandon Coleman, key left guard. We're thin at guard depth already. And there is no more important contributor to this team than Jayden Daniels, who did end up with an MRI. So again, just kind of reading through all that information before I pass the mic over to Pop to do his thing. So Pop, give the people what they're asking for here after all that info.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there for sure. I would say my reaction is not to overreact. Personally, my expectations, thoughts, feelings about the seasons have not changed. I might be one of the few Commanders fans that are actually saying that. I think it's ridiculous to reach a bunch of conclusions after that game. It's an opportunity for all the, Jayden Daniels year two slump people who just want to hate on him because they're opposing team fans and just want to wish him bad to, uh, you know, say that. Fine. I mean, have fun. If you think that there's any conclusive evidence of anything after a week two game on the road against a very tough team, I'm going to retract the statement that I made earlier. I think it's actually a horrible thing to go. I think it's probably the worst case scenario to play Thursday night football in week two because you're just not in football shape. And we could see how the injuries piled up. And the NFL needs to do something about Thursday night football. If I would make it the number one issue with the Players Association personally, because it's just playing on such a short week. It's just not fair to these players, and it you can see it, right? I mean, there's soft tissue issue, there's Achilles issues. We lost two guys for the seasons. The Packers lost somebody with a pretty big injury. So, but my
Yeah.
view is we shouldn't panic. I really feel like, and there's Dan Quinn talks about it. September football. I don't know that I love our preseason philosophy. It's worth noting that Jordan Love played, I think, in game one and game three. But I don't know that I love that, putting everybody in a bubble. You got extenuating circumstances with Terry McLaurin holding out, not playing, a lot of new pieces. I mean, what we got to remember is this is a team that's rebuilding while winning on a path to a rebuild. And you look at the amount of turnover and amount of change. People talk about it being the oldest team, and there's a reason for that. It's by necessity because they've got to plug in holes with these vets, and that's what they're doing on a bunch of one-year contracts. Even Adam Peters has talked about it not being ideal. But I think they're going to I'm still feel that this is one of the top teams in the NFC. And I'm not ready to crown Green Bay quite yet. It was an impressive performance. It looked great. They looked like they had 15 guys out there on defense. It was as dominant a defensive performance as you can get. It certainly gave our offense and Jayden Daniels a lot of trouble. And I don't think our defense held tough, but I don't think they took advantage of the situation well enough in terms of them having the two starting offensive linemen now. I don't know why we only rushed four the whole night. I don't get it. So,
Yeah,
but I
it was
also think we're
pretty
underselling the week one performance too. I think that was a dominant performance. Didn't reflect on the scoreboard, but it was dominant against a team we struggled to beat last season. And I don't think that's meaningless either.
that's fair. That's fair. It's a little tricky, right? Because week two is not, I think, any more or less fluky than week one. And when you look back, like you go back to the NFL this time last year, I mean, the Ravens started off 0-2. The Eagles were 2-2 through 4 games, got absolutely walked by Tampa. And I remember talking to you, Pop, and being like, they're not who they think they are at this point in the year, and of course that they ended up being the most dominant team in the league. There were teams that got beat and beat bad.
Yep,
Houston came out 2-0, firing ended up really being like a non-factor. Like there, it goes the other way, right? Tampa came out 2-0. We were talking about them being a Super Bowl contending team, and ultimately, like were much lesser than I think they barely scraped into the playoffs at 9-8 in a bad division, right? Um, so it was pretty strange through 2 weeks. So there's definitely an element of that. Now, we had an expectation of this team that we were going to pick up where we left off last year and accelerate that. And I think the thing that we maintained, we didn't love the way the offense looked in that 21-6 win. And we'd hoped, okay, let's get that offense firing, let's get that offense clicking. Sure, you could say Green Bay is really good. Looking ahead to week 3, that offense better come out working. And we're going to have a whole podcast, a whole pregame pod for the Raiders,
agreed,
and we'll talk about the keys there.
agreed.
But there are going to be, this is as much, in my opinion, of a must win game as you can have in week 3 as there is at this point in terms of settling expectations, settling down the fan base. We'll get into that going forward, but just kind of a little thing there. Per the Thursday night football thing that you talked about earlier, Pop, I think is an interesting point that I thought about that I haven't seen talked about much online, which is youngest team in the league in Green Bay, oldest team in the league in Washington. And I had a little bit of a back and forth with one of my friends during the game who said, hey, man, like realistically, you guys got older in the offseason, you'd expect a little bit of regression. And I said, well, here's the thing. Laramie Tunzel is older than Brandon Coleman, but Laramie Tunzel is a better left tackle than Brandon Coleman, right? So we did get older, yes, but you don't expect that. But I think that comes into play on these Thursday night games where these younger guys are able to get into football shape a little bit quicker. Dan Quinn's philosophy of letting these older guys rest so they're in better shape in December, January, comes into play. Like you said, these guys are not in football shape yet in week 2, and to go on the road in Lambeau, one of the hardest places to play on what was a terrible field, that field looked awful, um, is not friendly circumstances. That being said, this is the NFL. These are not friendly circumstances, and that's no excuse, in my opinion, for the coaching failures. We got outcoached. Matt LaFleur is 4-0 against Dan Quinn as a head coach or coordinator, and he averages 35 points a game against his defenses. We got worked on all 3 phases of the ball, and that started with the coaching, in my opinion. So that's my biggest concern because I think player wise, we got much of what you could expect realistically. Um, some of the things you highlighted here, Pop, maybe we can go back and forth about it. I know you got a short injury point you want to make. Maybe we can go back and forth about it after that. Um, but yeah, go ahead, make your point, and then we can kind of go forward on
I
some
was
of
just
these
saying, I think
key things.
obviously emotions are running pretty high in terms of the situation. I agree. I felt um, I didn't want to like. I think in terms of looking forward, addressing these injuries and how we react to that is an important point. But maybe to finish up the react portion of this, um, I agree. I don't. If I was gonna do the JP Finley blame ply thing, I would put a lot of it on coaching. I would put a
Yeah,
lot of it on scheme. Doc Walker was on the radio this morning. He said, "I don't want to hear about coaching because you guys don't know about coaching." But when I look at it and go, and I love Doc, by the way, would love to have him on sometime. We've tried to connect, and hopefully that'll get done soon. But um, you know, to me, the scheme of the lack of protection and only rushing four, if I was just going to pick on those two things, I just don't understand it. You have an
yeah,
opportunity to put pressure on Jordan Love and force him into mistakes. And are their weapons that great? I know our secondary didn't perform well, which we'll get into in a little bit. But why wouldn't we try to put more pressure on Jordan Love and hit him, make him feel a little bit? And then, a lot of people want to talk about Jayden Daniels playing poorly. I know you're of that opinion. But I'm just not sure any quarterback. I mean, he was the most pressured he's ever been in his career. And if you think about
46%.
where he performed the worst last season, it was against those high caliber defenses. We thought we upgraded the offensive line significantly. It didn't show yesterday. They performed about as poorly as they have in Dan Quinn's tenure yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And you decided that you're going to throw Josh Connolly in there, like a baby. We talked about it before. You throw a baby in the pool, teach them to swim. It's a harsh way to make them learn rather than putting the swimmies on and trying to teach them to actually swim. You just throw them in the deep end. They're throwing Josh Connolly in the deep end. And that's an experiment that right now is not working after 2 weeks. He got cooked in
Yeah.
week 1, too. And I don't put that on Josh Connolly. You get the people saying, oh, he sucks. Come on. It's not fair. He's a late first round pick. He could have a great career in front of him. He's going from the left to the right side. John Bates got hurt early, but why it's so difficult? Like Doc said in his call today, put a second lineman in there. John Bates is basically a blocking tight end. Play Wiley and Allegretti. Like, do something. But you can't just
Yeah.
let Jayden Daniels take a beating the entire game. So,
Yep.
but my hope is that, Cliff and the coaches, they saw what we saw and that they will, they'll fix this thing going forward. So I think, in terms of injuries, the only point is, it's tough. Alston Eckler and Dietrich Wise are big pieces of this team. Hopefully, the Bates and Noah Brown thing are more short term. Tough losses, but I don't think, I think we can overcome it. I could see, I like Rodriguez a lot. So I think him coming in and having a 1-2 punch with Bill, I think will be a great thing from a pure running game perspective. And in terms of the passing opportunities, I think Deebo Samuel can do a lot of what Eck does in the passing game. But, those are big losses. But, I think that the next man up is going to have to happen for sure. And then we haven't even
Yeah.
touched on the biggest news to me, which was the report that Jayden Daniels has an MRI in his knee. By the time this podcast comes out on Monday, there could be a need for us to break in and do something different. My encouraging thing is I don't see any of the main reporters for the team saying anything about it. So hopefully it's just a maintenance check. I don't know. Have you heard some things? You seem to have some sources that I don't
No.
on this.
No, nothing confirmed really.
I
But
wonder if
other
he
than the
plays
fact that
against the Raiders.
the MRI occurred. I think he's been nursing something. I'll say it.
Yeah, you've been of that
I think he's been
opinion.
nursing something. He's not right. Something's not right. I don't know if it's in between the ears or if it's in on
It's
the
a good
legs.
segue
I
to
don't
our next
know.
segment. So let's start next segment there.
Yeah,
Let's start with Jayden. Like his struggles, right? We're
yeah.
going to talk a little bit about our top concerns after game 2. Sorry to interject, but I think rather than repeating it, let's start with Jayden. He hasn't looked like Jayden of last year. Um, I think it's a little over. The concerns are a little overblown. Why don't you give your take on that?
Sure. So yeah, I don't. It strikes me. It's this armchair psychologist. This is just a guy that watches a lot of football, right? So take it for what it's worth. This strikes me that he's not trusting something physically, mentally. That's what I feel. It looks mental, but it looks like it's because he's not trusting something physical. He's trying, when he's trying to scramble, the decisions are questionable. He's not really throwing the ball away the way that he used to. He's staring down the rush a lot, and it's his footwork is rough. His footwork is weirdly rough, and that's just these are not things that we talked about last year, which leads me to believe, like I said, I believe it's mental because he's not trusting something physically, but I also wonder if there's a level of like he overthought certain mechanics and certain aspects of his game in the offseason, trying so hard to improve that maybe like you saw that with Tiger Woods at a point in his game where he over tweaked his swing and kind of had to revert back. Um, Obviously, 1 year of Jayden Daniels doesn't put him in Tiger Woods echelon, but that's the best analogy I can come up with. Um, it's a strange thing going on with him right now that I am monitoring. I There is nobody in this world I can confidently tell you that is more of a fan of Jayden Daniels than me. You can't be a bigger fan of Jayden Daniels than me. You could be the same level. You can't be a bigger fan. There's nobody in this world that wants this to be less true than I. But this is just what I'm seeing. And I'm not at a point where I have long-term concern about it. He's still the fastest player in NFL history, I think, to reach like 4,000 yards from scrimmage, or at least in team history. There's still all kinds of crazy stats around the guy. Even in his bad days, he still makes some great throws. I thought he threw an absolute dime to Noah Brown on that route where there should have been the holding call, and where Noah Brown also should have caught that ball on a key 3rd and 5. Like, he still is Jayden, right? But there's the things about Jayden that pushed him into that like elite untouchable category, in my opinion. I have not seen be so dominant yet this year, and I'm just wondering like
Yeah. So
what's contributing to that.
I got a couple thoughts on that quickly. One, I don't see what you're seeing personally. I feel like in week one, I thought I saw Jayden. He rushed for a bunch of yards. He smiled back at the D end and just turned on the speed. And I thought that, that there were some disconnects with the receivers, but I put that more on, guys not necessarily being where they should be, or him being just a hair off, with his accuracy. So I don't see it. Week two, I think this was much more to do with, I just can't see any quarterback looking good in that performance. I just don't. Now, is he nicked? Could he be nicked? We heard about a wrist. Maybe there's something going on with his legs. Maybe this knee thing was pre-existing. Possibly. He's going to have to learn to play with nicks. He's not the most,
Yeah.
Every quarterback's going to have to learn to play with nicks. So I think, certainly he's a tough kid to defend. Like you said, you see the flashes of those great balls. I just don't know. Like I said, it looked like there was 15 Packers out there. I don't know that any quarterback put in that situation behind that team, running that scheme, looks good. So my concerns aren't as great as yours.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about it being hurt, but I think Jayden's going to be just fine. I'll leave it at that without a very detailed breakdown. I just think it's kind of, yeah, all those things that you said could be a factor. I'm not dismissing them. I don't think it's something that's going to be a big deal for him to overcome. Still a year two player. He's still an ascending player, in my opinion. Haters going to hate. You guys do your thing. I'm not worried about Jayden other than his health. I hope that, he's good health wise. But they got to help him more. They can't have that kind of
Yep.
pressure on him. And they took away his rushing lanes. It's not like he didn't try to run the ball. He couldn't. There was no room to run. And yeah, maybe he missed some open guys, but when you're getting pressured like that, every quarterback speeds their clock up. And I'll admit, sometimes he does hold the ball a little too long. That has been an issue, but that's not, we saw that last year. It's not a new
I
thing.
don't
We saw that
I
last
don't
year.
I don't agree. I think last year he was getting the ball out of his hands at one of the fastest clips we've ever seen. It's not. It's weird to me. I
On
have way
average,
more
but we saw
moments
him hold the ball sometimes in certain situations.
occasionally, but the like old Caleb Williams like scramble right, you don't have anything, try and scramble back left, and then lose 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I never saw him do that last year. Like, if you scramble right, don't have anything, balls out, gone, next play. So stuff like that is what leads me to believe there's some level of second guessing, and I'm relating it back to something physical that maybe we don't know about. But
Possibly.
a big part of that, tying into the next thing that we've talked about, is this offensive line. The right side of the offensive line looks awful. Allegretti has been bad for
I don't
since
I,
week one
I don't
of
know
last
why he's
year.
starting over Wiley. I don't get it. Like, I
I
mean,
don't know why.
they know more than we do. Maybe they want to have Wiley be that swing tackle, and they're worried about. I think that's what it is, but
So
I don't
that's the
get it.
concern, right? Is if Wiley turns an ankle,
Yeah,
then who is your backup tackle
yeah,
while Cosme's out, right? That's a huge concern, which I get. I understand it's maybe more important to have him as tackle depth, but then he needs to play right tackle, and Josh Connerly needs to become your backup tackle. Because they're those two, Connerly and Allegretti, are not a good combination on the right side. And Wiley, for all the consternation about Andrew Wiley, Wiley had a great camp. Wiley played great in the preseason, and Wiley was an above average starter at right tackle last year. Wiley was solid. Wiley was not the problem
You
on
put
that line
yourself in a
last
tough
year.
spot, right? Because you start the Rook, and now if you bench him, you know what I mean. You've put him in a lose situation,
Yeah.
but you got to do what's right for the team. You got to have confidence that he can overcome that. But yeah, so far that's been a calculated failure. I'll say it. So far,
Yep.
2 games in, it's been a failure.
Which brings us to the next bullet point here, which is Terry McLaurin's slow start. Does that sound familiar to you? It was the same issue last year. And I tie that into the wide receiver room as a whole, in my opinion, is also a calculated failure. We just did not do enough. Is anybody in this world, and God bless him, he's been good when he's on the field. Is anybody in this world surprised that we're talking about a Noah Brown injury in week 2? Is anybody?
He's Brown's
It
okay, man. There's
happens.
way too
It's
many.
not his.
There's way too
It
many.
ha-
There's way too many drops. You're right.
my
He gets
my point
injured too
is,
much.
it's a
Yeah,
durability. This guy has durability concerns, and you're
I'm
banking on him
agreeing
to be
with you.
your
By the way,
second out. Yeah,
yeah,
okay, thank you.
I'm agreeing
His
with you.
durability concerns, and your entire plan is for him to be your second outside receiver. Debo Samuel has been one of the few bright spots. There were other guys on the outside. If you wanted to get an outside receiver, there were other guys you could have allocated some of those assets towards. I'm glad we have Debo. Don't get me wrong. There had to be a better plan than Noah Brown or Jalen Lane, who is a fourth round receiver on the outside. There had to be a better plan. That brings me to 4th and 5. Your receivers on the field are Luke McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, who just runs a clear out go route, and Jalen Lane. What are we doing schematically with these wide receivers right now to get them open? We're not helping them. Terry's starting really slow, as he did last year. Where is the bubble screen to Terry? Where's the RPO game to get these guys open? There is no help there. And those two things, in my opinion, I'll let Pop you go on the wide receivers, but those two things are like between that and then Jayden not being 100% there, like those three things are the reason this offense is not
Well, we
working.
talked about it as a domino effect of the injuries, and I'm with you, right?
Yeah.
Like now Debo's going to have to fill in some of that Eck role because there's no one else to do it, right? So now, like Luke's going to have to step up, or maybe the rookie Jalen Lane. Did I say that right? I'm like
Yeah.
drawing
Yeah.
a blank here. Maybe he's got to step up, but yeah, I think the receiver. I think Terry's going to be fine. Yeah, I agree. The holdout hurt him, but I think he's going to be fine. He's a pro, and he still catches everything that is in
Is
range to
catchable.
catch. Is he running
Which has
the
been an
best
issue
routes?
too.
He's going to correct that. So,
Yeah.
and obviously Debo is a reason to be. We'll get into that in a minute. He's a reason to be happy. But I agree. I think it's a concern for sure. But I still think there's enough weapons on this offense. The number one thing they got to figure out is the offensive line. Now, running back's an interesting thing, right? With that gone, because we don't know 100% what we have in Bill in terms of versatility. We like what we see with him at running the ball, but is he a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield? It's an unknown. We don't know. And Rodriguez is more of that Brian Robinson bruiser type. So I'm not too worried about the fact that we lost Brian, because I think Rodriguez is another version of Brian Robinson, maybe a better version in my opinion. But not having that pass catching back is going to hurt.
Which brings us back to coaching because why, after what we saw from Bill last week, why does he only get
No, it
four
was
carries?
ridiculous. Now,
It's
the
insane.
offensive scheme was
Can I
terrible.
tell you, Pop?
It was terrible.
I swear to God, I had a dream the night after the game. Micah Parsons came to me in a dream and asked me why we didn't try to run the football. I swear to God.
That's
Why?
oh my god.
I was sitting
We
on my
might need
back
an
porch with him
intervention.
having a drink, and he was asking,
We
why
may need an
don't you guys
intervention
run the
for this kid.
football? He was making fun of me. So you guys didn't even try to run the football. And it's true. Bill, right now, with the shape that Terry McLaurin seems to be in and or the schematic issues surrounding Terry McLaurin, there is nobody more explosive on this offense at this moment than Bill, other than maybe Debo. He's the most explosive piece you have. He should be getting the ball on every first down.
They're going to
What is
have
going
to. I
on?
mean, they threw Connolly into the to the pool. They're going to have to throw Bill in now. There's just
And why are we so?
no other way. I mean, to me, he's still a bit of an unknown, right? I mean, we like what we've seen in flashes. We need to see more. So,
But everything that we've
but I think
seen, so that's
Rodriguez could be a real asset too, and just
yeah,
pounding the ball, right? Get him some series as well.
everything that we've seen from Bill. Bill has given you no reason for concern from what you've seen from him. He had a great camp. What is it? Is it the fact that he's a seventh rounder? Is it the fact that you had a vet like Austin Eckler that you wanted to give the benefit of the doubt? But I don't know. X out of the picture now. Bill has got to be RB1, and you've got to try and run the ball. You've got to at least try to run the ball.
Agree,
Um,
totally agree.
dude, Lattimore's been terrible. That's our next topic. I have nothing more to say on it than he stinks right now, and he has got to get it together. I would give him. I mean, if I was the coach, which I'm not, and most of the reason is probably because I'm too emotional for that kind of job. But
Yeah,
I would have a serious dialogue about benching the guy. And I think if we're still talking about this in 2 weeks, I think he's got to be sat down. Trey Amos is your best corner right now.
yeah, but you need two, and I think it's a little bit of an unrealistic thing because you just don't have the depth, and I still think he's better than the guys that are on the bench, right? So I don't know with Lattimore. I think here's my take on Marshawn Lattimore. He's not a lockdown quarter anymore. Obviously, he's not a top corner in the league. I don't know that he's still not a decent player. He's not getting torched. He's getting, it's, cornerbacks get beat. We see it all the time. Our receivers beat the top cornerbacks on the other teams regularly. Like cornerbacks get beat, and he's getting beat a lot more than what our expectations are for him in terms of his reputation. But I don't know that he's absolutely unplayable, because I see him close. Like I see him on guys. I see him, in good coverage. He does get too many penalties. Is he a guy that I'm expecting that we're going to re-sign? No, but I don't know that we've got better options right now than Lattimore. Like you bench him,
Yeah,
who's going to play? Who are you benching?
yeah,
You need
yeah.
three of them.
It's well, my thought is you move Samerstill outside next to Amos and you put Igbenogany back in the slot. That's my thought. Igbenogany's another guy that's had a really good camp. But getting
I
on to
think the bigger
Luvu,
issue is Luvu, the next guy on our list.
he's a witness protection.
He's in witness protection. I mean, where is Frankie Luvu?
I can
Where is
tell you
he?
where he is. You know where he is?
I don't know.
He's out there. He's out there
Tell
doing
me.
his best Cole. He's out there doing his best Cole Holcomb impression. He's running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He's completely out of position. He's running around like crazy. He's always at the ball after the guy gets tackled. Like he's just completely. I don't know, dude. Maybe try. I don't know if he's like one of those smelling salts guys. Maybe try a game without some smelling salts. Like we got to just bring that energy down a little bit, Frankie. Get him back into position. I will say I just took a quick Twitter break, and the dialogue around Jaden's knee is not positive right now. We'll get more into that in the pregame. Um, but yeah, just looking at that really quick, none of this may all be second tier conversation.
Yeah, don't get
But yeah,
distracted. We'll come back to that.
yeah, we'll get back to that in the pregame. But just an update from what we were talking about earlier. It seems there's a little more clarity around it. The clarity's not what we want. But tough way to segue into the top reasons for optimism.
Well, I think I
Um,
think I think I think we're jumping around. Another problem I think is we haven't seen much of Jordan McGee either. Who's
yeah,
supposed to be the other revelation of this defense. So
it's week two. It's week two. Some of these guys come on around Halloween. You look for that later. Ben Sinnott's going to be a guy you're going to need to see more from if Bates is really down for a long time. But this is like, I mean, this is serious injury bug concerns when you're
yeah,
looking at the list of guys that are hurt, and
so I
yeah,
think it's
especially
worth
if
addressing. What are you hearing on Jayden? Let's just we're live here. What are you hearing?
It's just a lot of people are saying that they would lean towards not playing him against the Raiders.
Based
There's
on
a lot
what?
of the Twitter doctors. I just rewatched the video where he hurt his knee, possibly. It doesn't look positive. They said it was fine after the MRI, which if there was a tear, if there's something really serious, but I'm leaning. A
Where?
lot of the
Who said
Twitter
it was
doctors
fine?
are the same report that I saw that said he had an MRI said it was fine.
Okay.
Um, but
Well, yeah, we don't know.
that
So,
could
like you said,
mean
well,
fine could mean sprained, and sprained is not necessarily
well,
fine. You know,
yeah. I mean, we're just full disclosure. We're recording this on Saturday,
conjecture.
so we don't know.
Yeah.
We'll know more when this goes live. We'll talk
Hopefully this
about it.
does go live.
Yeah, we'll talk about it
Um,
on Thursday in our pregame show. But where we sit right now, what we know, and probably when this is released at 10 a.m. on Monday, I'm not confident he's playing against the Raiders.
don't
I'm
like
not.
it.
I'm not.
Um, and Mariota,
Yeah,
that's a different. We'll talk about that if we get there. Hopefully we
yeah.
don't get there.
It's a reason for
Top
concern for sure.
top reasons for optimism. Let's see if we can muster some of that up.
Should we just leave? Should we just end it here?
Should we just
I've
say
been. This
we're
is Dom.
we're
I've been
screwed?
pop.
And, I don't know, guys. Maybe we
Anyway,
can look back behind the draft picture. Top reasons for optimism. Defense looks much improved. I would say yes and no. This is not a defense that's going to win you games, but this is the defense that can keep you in it. They hung tough in the times that mattered, but at a certain point, the offense was just giving them such little help that I'd say in the first half the defense did enough. If the offense could have gotten literally anything going, I mean, you have the ball back down 10-3 after being dominated with like 7 minutes left in the second quarter, and you were getting the ball back at half, and then they even made one more stop. You could have, or I don't know if it was 10-3 or 14-3, but either way, you were in a position where last
it was a
year,
one score. I mean, the bottom line is it was a one score game. Now that's a
la-
moment. That's a moment that
yeah,
the defense didn't look good because they let the Packers march right down and make it a two-score game after that. But I mean, it was a one-score game. This team did battle back offensively
yeah,
to make it a
you
one-score game.
miss. You took 3 50-yard field goal attempts, which again, this just leads me back to like the lack of tries on fourth down. Again, something's up with five. But all in all, defense looks much improved. They hung tough when you needed them early in the game. They just couldn't. You can't.
Well,
You're not going to win a lot of NFL football games with 3 points going into the third quarter. You're just not.
I want to clarify this one because I wrote it. I think they're improved. I think we saw the difference between an elite defense and one that is improved, but
Average.
is not. We thought after week one against the Giants, maybe we're looking at something a little different. And I think they did perform well, and I think they are improved. And I do think that could bode us well as we go through the season. But yeah, it's not it's not at a Packers or Eagles level quite yet. We got some work to do there, and yeah, it'd be nice if we talked about Lattimore and Frankie Louvu that we start to see a little more out of those guys going forward for sure. And
Yeah.
losing Wise isn't gonna help.
No. No. Not at
But
all.
Javon Kinlaw's been a nice addition.
Von Kinlaw's been good. Didn't really hear him get his name called much against Green Bay, but has been really good. You can't have only one defensive lineman that's playing well, unfortunately, and have it matter. Deron Payne went back into WPP as well. Debo looks like Debo though. Debo looks darn good.
He's a big
Um,
reason to be optimistic. That so
yeah,
far looks like a great signing. I don't know that I love him on kick returns just because of the injury thing. I sacrificed Luke back there personally, but um, he looks
yeah,
good returning kicks. So
yeah.
and everything else. I mean,
Um,
his touch scored a nice touchdown again. So
Talented player, man. Good to have him here. Hopefully, it matters. Uh,
it will.
Yeah.
It will.
Let's switch our next bullet point, which maybe we feel a little bit differently about at this exact second, is you got to expect JD5 and the offense to improve with time, and Cosme's return, hopefully after week 5, should help. Um, just get out ahead of it and say now, if five's not right in September, just sit him. if we gotta
Yeah,
work
I
our way
mean,
out of a 3-4 game stretch or
you just
whatever.
hope it's
Just
a a short term thing, where he
yeah,
needs a couple weeks. And indications that I've seen with the online doctors are it's more of a sprain type situation than anything severe.
yeah,
You heard the MRI came back good. Let's hope that's true. I
yeah,
Anyway, I don't want to get into that too much because it's going to get stale quick. We'll know more about that come next week. But I do think once healthy, JD5, we're going to see JD5 be JD5. Those of you that want to say that he's not good and all that other stuff, have at it. But I'm still a big believer, and I don't think. I think if we had gotten that we've raised the bar on what we expect from him. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's, his stats are not awful. And if we got that kind of quarterback play out of Sam Howell, we'd all be doing cartwheels. So,
yeah.
let's pump the brakes on JD5, not still being a hell of a good quarterback.
Yeah,
Maybe we got ahead of ourselves, putting him in the conversation with Lamar and you know the top guys in the league. Maybe we got a little ahead of ourselves there. I still
I
think
don't
he's
think
got
we
some things
did from what we
we can
saw,
work on,
but
but you know, but I think that he's a heck of a player, and I agree with you. Get him healthy if that's what we need to do. Get him healthy. Mariota, from what we know, is back healthy, so I think he can win these next couple of games for us if we need him to.
and
So
look, all those guys that we've put in that elite class, which gets to Dan Quinn's point about September football. It's sloppy. They're figuring things out. I wonder if even like when it comes to the fourth down decision making, they're trying to save some of those plans for games later on in the season, more important scenarios. I'm of the mind that they're all important because if you're in a situation where you got to win to get a certain seed in December, what could have prevented that situation is winning this game against Green Bay. But
the 58-yard
regardless,
field goal kick was dumb. You either go for it or you punt. You don't
agree.
give them a chance. You had a chance there to build some momentum with getting the ball back in the second half and getting some points on the board. That was just dumb. Right? That's
Agree.
of the three things you could do there, that should have been the third choice, especially knowing that he's not a good from distance. He hasn't been good from distance recently.
Yeah.
So that was just a dumb choice. Um, I
But
think the reason I still think Dan Quinn, like last season, is predispositioned to go for it. He didn't do it because he saw how dominant the Packers looked against us, and he wasn't confident, and that's okay. To me, that's okay. But the decision to kick a 58-yarder was just dumb. Punt it.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. And but getting into that, working out some of those decisions. I mean, I remember we came on here after the Tampa game and after the New York game, and we said Quinn's weirdly conservative. So maybe that's some part of his early season philosophy. I don't know.
I don't
But
love the idea of the head coach saying it's just September football. Like,
me
to
neither.
me, I don't love that. I think that's you got to figure out a way. He seems to be a self improvement guy. We got to figure out a way to get the stuff done during preseason, much versus September. But I do think there's some truth to that. I'm not overreacting to
Yeah.
this loss.
And to the point of not overreacting at September football, last year, it's the first example that comes to mind, and I'm speaking of an elite team and an elite player. Lamar threw a duck in the end zone to Cleveland to lose them the game in week 2 of last year. And he was in MVP consideration. Everybody said he should have been the MVP, and the Ravens were the favorite to win the Super Bowl by the end of the year last year. So it's not every team, even Jalen Hurts, every quarterback, everybody wants to act like he just walks on water. Every quarterback, every team, we've seen the Bills lose to the Jaguars. Like every team takes a dump. And lots of teams take dumps against much lesser opponents than this team. And frankly, realistically, this is not the first dump we're going to take this year. We lost to the Cowboys at home with Cooper Rush at quarterback. Like, it just happens, man. It's going to happen sometimes. I don't want to make too much of a thing about it, but I will say this is probably all in all the worst loss I've seen in the Dan Quinn era. but it's to a really good team, and you did manage to hang in tough even when everything was not going your way. Um, so
I think that
you can
Eagles
hope to
loss
get
was
things
worse, but
better. I don't think so. But you can hope to get some things better as you move forward.
this is
But
supposed to be the optimism portion of the program.
in theory, there are some winnable games if you've got the guys that you need to win games at the helm. With the Raiders at home and then Atlanta, you got a 10-day break. Hopefully, Jayden can be right by then. I'm hoping they're going to be really conservative with him. And then we've got the Week 5 game against the Chargers to hopefully bring back a win, which the boys will be in attendance. So fired up about that. And yeah, let's see where this thing goes,
Yeah, I
man.
mean you got the Raiders in Atlanta, you know, next. Raiders at home. None of these games are easy. Atlanta on the road. Chargers are going to be tough on the on the road West Coast trip, but I think the fact that we're going to be in attendance is going to tilt the scales on that one. And then Bears at home is a winnable game. So like take 3 of these next 4, and you end up, what's that, 4-2. I think you'd be pretty happy with that. I think that's an achievable thing. And I think Marcus Mariota is a hell of a good backup quarterback. So if he's got to go for a game or two of that, I don't think that automatically results in losses. He proved that last year. So,
Yeah,
look, it's football season, man. Like we've been waiting for this all season, all off season. Sorry. So to get down in the dumps and just say everything's just falling apart because of one loss against a tough team, I think is ridiculous. Personally, let's just play them one game at a time, 1 week at a time. I think this team is going to respond, and I think if Jayden can't go, they're going to rally around that, and rally around Marcus, and he's probably one of the best backups in the league. So there's reason for optimism there. I just hope it's nothing more serious than that. And you know, I've also heard those internet doctors say you strap a brace on it and he could keep playing. So we'll see.
yeah.
But obviously, it's a lot different if you can't use his legs the way that we're used to him using them. So
It's
anyway,
a
I
lot of
guess we're just not
people.
going to be optimistic today, but that's okay.
No, we're
It's
trying to talk ourselves
understandable.
into it.
It's understandable given the current
You know what's
circumstances.
important? You know what's important? We showed up and we tried to feel better about the situation.
I'm not
Sometimes
sure.
situations
I'm not
just
sure
suck.
we tried that
But we
hard.
showed up and we tried. There was no getting me out of it. But
Yeah, I know. I tried.
either way, it's bad when Pop can't even get himself to feel optimistic. But let's wrap this thing up. We'll be back Thursday. We'll have a little more time to cool off. We'll be back Thursday with our pregame pod. Hopefully, some more information on what's going on for that Raiders game. But until then, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thank you all for another great week, everybody. Stay the course and hail